and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. Let me move my microphone a bit closer to me. Now, it's Saturday, but of course it is also International Pi Day. It's the 14th of March today, and for those mathematicians out there or people like me, this is a lovely day of the year, 3.14, and many of the viewers of Cracking the Cryptic seem to be well aware that this date was coming as well. We have literally been inundated with puzzles based around Pi Day. I would say probably about 20 puzzles we've received from you guys. So thank you very, very much for sending those to us and creating them. Now, what we've had to do is decide which puzzle we are actually going to show today, and that has not been easy. Our testers have loved a lot of the puzzles you've sent, and I feel bad actually that some of them won't get the publicity they deserve. But we had to choose one of them, and we've chosen this one because visually this is quite stunning. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can see that we have 20 decimal places of pi in a circle around this grid. 3.141592. I checked this earlier on. It's absolutely right. Goes all the way up here, and then the 20th digit is that 6 in the very centre of the grid. And believe it or not, this is the creation. Well, you'll believe that it's the creation of Ard van de Wetering, the brilliant Dutch setter. But it does have apparently a unique solution. Now, a unique solution. There's one variation that you need to be aware of before we start to solve this. And that's a nice tie-in with the channel at the moment, because this puzzle is actually a King Sudoku. So those of you who don't watch the channel regularly may not be aware that last week we released Chess Sudoku, which is our third app. It's been very, very well received. We've been absolutely delighted with the feedback. But one of the puzzle types featured in the app is King Sudoku. Now, how does King Sudoku differ from regular Sudoku? Well, let's try and pick a digit here. This 7, let's look at this 7. This 7 ordinarily would rule out these 3 squares from being a 7. But in King Sudoku, it also rules out this square. And that's because if this 7 was a king in chess, it could move to this square. It's just one away. It just moves one diagonally. So that is the extra constraint with King Sudoku. And yeah, apparently this puzzle solves. I say apparently, our testers have tested it. They tested all the puzzles we got, and they have confirmed that this is indeed, it does have a unique solution, and it's not easy apparently. So I will let you into a secret which I was told by Ard van de Wetering's friend, when he sent this puzzle in. He said that the 8th digit is a struggle. So I think we're going to be able to get 7 digits in this grid, and then we're going to struggle. So we're going to have to put our thinking caps on to finish it off. And with that, let's get cracking and have a go. Now, if you want to have a go, you can always do that on Cracking the Cryptic. You just click on the link under the video, and that will take you to this web page where you can play along. And with that, let's see how we get on. So we'll start with the 1s. Look, we can put some 1s over here, 3s over here because of these 3s. In fact, we get a 3. Look, because of these 3s in the grid. That means that square must be a 3. That puts a 3 over there. Now, immediately my eyes are drawn up to the pencil marks 3s I just made. And whenever I get this pattern, I always focus on it. Now, why is that? Well, it's because if we look at this box, you can see the 3 is locked into column 8 or column 9. And if you look at this box, the 3 is locked into column 8 or column 9. Therefore, we've got enough 3s already in this puzzle in column 8 and column 9. In column 8 and column 9, there will be exactly 2 3s. And we know that they must fall in those 4 squares. So where do we put the 3 in column 7? Oops, it must be in one of these 3 positions. In fact, we have a 3 over there, so in fact it's in one of those 2 positions. Now, let's carry on. We can pencil mark some 4s there, 2s in the centre, 9s up here because of these 9s, Now look, we can pencil mark 6s into those two squares because of this 6 and this 6, but that is not as far as we need to go, because this 6, if it was a chess king, could move to this square. So this cannot be a 6. So the 6 must be there, which means one of those two squares is a 6. Now, in placing this 6, we took the pencil mark of a 3, so that must be a 3. That must be a 3 now because of the 3s dotted around the grid. This 1 means this must be a 1. It's the only place a 1 can go in the box. And how many digits have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far, so we haven't reached the sticking point yet. 5s, look, we can place a 5 there. These 3 squares have got to be 4, 7 and 8 in some order. We don't know anything about 4s, 7s and 8s from the left hand side of the grid though yet. So let's just check the rest of this column where we need 2, 3, 5 and 9. So this square can only be a 2 or a 3. This square can only be a 2 or a 9. 5s must be in one of those two squares. Now I've been quite careful so far to only pencil mark in 2 positions in boxes. I may have to move to 3 positions. Sometimes in King's Move Sudoku, 3 positions is actually important. The 8s though, look, we can place an 8. This must be an 8 because this 8 is going to force an 8 into one of those 3 squares. So this square can't be an 8, and this 8 removes those 8s. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've now got 7 digits. So it's this next digit that's going to be the struggle. We can place 8s in those 2 squares. Look, now look at that. This square can no longer be an 8, because if I put an 8 here, I would remove both the cells in box 9 that could be an 8. So that cannot be an 8. Sorry about this, just 1 second. I am going to move, I'm going to start pencil marking 3s in just in case this is going to be helpful. So 7s you can see must be in one of those squares, one of these 3 squares. 6s in one of these 3 squares. 4s in one of these 3 squares because of these 4s interacting. 9 into, no, 9 we can do better than 3 squares because of course this square sees this 9. So 9 is actually in one of those 2 squares, which means it's in one of these 2 squares because this 9 rules out that square. Ones in the central box, look, can be in one of 3 positions. And the reason this sort of thing can be important is if we look at this box now, a 1 can no longer go in this square because this 1 would see this square and this square in the column, but it would see this square by a king's move. And I mean, I'm not seeing how that's immediately useful, but this is why we might need to pencil 3 digits in a box. What am I missing here? 8s, look. These 8s interact. So the 8 must be in one of those squares, which means it's in one of these 2 positions at the top. And again, these 8s are interesting to me because this rules out an 8 from either of these 2 squares. If I try and put an 8 in one of these 2 squares, I remove both of these squares as options. So So the 8 in the central box, look, can't be in any of those squares. So the 8 must be in one of 3 positions. I can't quite. Two, three. Fives. Look, this 5 here and this 5 here, that's going to give us a little bit of a pencil mark in this box because 5's ruled out from there, but this 5 sees that square. And that means the 5 is in one of these 3 squares in box 4. Now again, we've got an interesting pattern there. That means this square can't be a 5, because if this is a 5, it rules out that one, and that one because of the king's move. And that gives us the opportunity to pencil mark 5s in the middle box now. This 5 and this 5. So the 5 must be in one of those 3 squares. So we've got quite a lot of pencil marking done in the middle box now. We haven't pencil marked 4s, 7s or 9s. Right, now that is important. This is very hard to see, but let's have a look at this square. This square has suddenly become magical because we can see it can be a 2 from our pencil marks, but the only numbers we've not pencil marked yet in the central box are 4, well it can't be a 4, 9, well it can't be a 9, and 7. Well, it definitely can't be a 7 because look, the 7 here would rule out this square and this square by king's moves and that one, and there would be nowhere to place a 7 in this box. So this is not 7. The only digit this can be is 2. It was sitting there as a naked single the whole time. But that 7 there rules out a 7 from that square, but that doesn't change what we just did. So we have found our 8th digit. Now, what does it mean? The numbers, Mason, what do they mean? Oh, well, I thought that would be more helpful. But hang on, let's look at this column. We still need 1, 5, 6, 7 and 9. Well, look at this square. That sees a 5, 6, 7 and a 9. It sees the 9 because of the king's move. So this square can only be a 1. Now that's going to lock a 1 up here. I mean, I just want to pause just for a second and say, how on earth did Ard van der Wetering figure this out? I mean, this is absolutely absurd. That you can put pi to 20 decimal places in a circle around a grid at a king's move constraint, and it's a unique Sudoku. It is mind-boggling. I mean, you wouldn't even think to try it. You just assume it wouldn't work. Anyway, let's carry on. These 1s, look, I can see they lock a 1 into one of those 2 squares, but that square sees that one. So this must be the 1. Now that forces this to be a 1, which means this must be a 1. And all of a sudden we are starting to make proper progress, aren't we? Now, in placing this one, we displaced a pencil marked 6. So now this square must be a 6. Desperately trying not to miss things here. So the 8s are here, the 5s are here, the 7s are here. We've not placed a 4. I'm going to pencil mark 4s in. Actually, I know that's a bit naughty to pencil mark 4 4s in a box, but just to make it clear to me that all of the digits have been sort of addressed. But actually this square, look, can't be a 4, because if I put a 4 here, I'm removing a 4 from both those squares. So this square has to be an 8. which means that's not an 8. Oopsie. That's not an 8, so this is the only place an 8 can go. This 8 removes that square from being an 8. So now we've locked the 8s into one of these two squares. That's not that helpful actually. But the 9 is helpful now, because the 9 now shifts up there, which hits this 9. So this must be a 9. It must be a 9 in one of those two squares. Now also, when I put that 1 in, yeah, there's a 1 over here. Look, I meant to put that 1 in as well. So there's a 1 here. And in placing that, I displaced a 3, which must now be here, which means that's a 3. Good grief. Now we've done all the 3s now. We've done all the 1s now. And in this, now in this row we need 2, 4 and 8, but this square can't be a 4, because if this square is a 4, I can't put a 4 in the middle box, because this 4 would rule out those 3 squares. Normally it would rule that out by knight's move, and that 4 rules out that square, and there would be nowhere for a 4 to go. So the 4 is not in this square, which means this square can only be a 2. It can't be an 8 because of the 8 there. So that's a 2, which means there's a 2 in one of those two squares. So these 3 squares now are 4, 6 and 7. So let's do some pencil marking. That's 4, 6... Don't yet know about 7. Let's just pencil mark them all in 7s and fill in the 2 here, which means one of these two squares must be a 2. Now let's finish off this row as well, because we still need to place 4 and 8, and you can see we can do that now because of the 4 up here. So this square is a 4. This 4 sees the 4, 7 here. It sees this square. This square can't be a 4 anymore. So that's a 7 and that's a 4. This 4 rules out that from being a 4, so it must be a 7 because we fully pencil marked that box. I remember doing that. Now this is a 4, 5 pair. That means that this can't be a 5 now. 7 means these 3 squares can't have 7 in, so the 7 shifts up into one of those two squares where it meets its friend the 9. So these are a 7, 9 pair, which means that's not a 7 at the bottom. And one of these squares needs to be a 4. Now the 4 here means the 4 must be in one of those two positions, so this square can only be a 5, and look, that 5 is going to fix the 5 and the 4 there. This 4 sees this square, it can't be a 4 now, so this is the 4, this is the 7, that square down there must be a 6, this square here must be a 4. Good grief. Now this must be the 8. We've had that hanging there for a while. Oh, now the 8 sees this 4, 8 pair. So this is the 8. This is a 4. This 4 here sees the bottom of the grid. So that's 4, 7, 6. This 8 sees the 8 at the top. It's all coming together now. I mean, it's mind-blowing, this. Absolutely incredible. You can see this is a 2, 7 pair, so we should label that up and just check whether we can see how to resolve it. Now down here, we need 2, 7 and 9. So this is a 7. This is 2 or 9. I'm just trying to check the diagonals as well to make sure that we're not missing a trick there. These 7s mean this is a 7. This 7 not only sees this 2, 7 pair, but look, it sees the 7, 9, which we could have resolved anyway because we had 8 numbers in the row. Just hadn't focused on it at that point. That means that's a 2. This is a 2. This is a 5. That 2 fixes the 2, 9 at the bottom. That should be a 9. That should be a 9. That should be a 9. This square must be a 5. This square must be a 6, I think. So we need 6 and 5 into these squares, unless I've made a mistake. That looks good. Yes. What a stunning puzzle. That's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So happy Pi Day to all of you. Let me know in the comments what you make of that. That is one stunning puzzle. And we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.